Nothing can replace my child. I wanted to suffer first. I wanted to suffer. It hurts so bad. I'm trying to keep it together, but it hurts.
They say love will take you places, but in Gretna, Louisiana, it took one man far past the border of accountability. Renika Richberg wasn't chasing chaos. She was chasing peace. A hardworking mother, a businesswoman, a woman who finally built the calm she deserved. But when peace meets obsession, somebody always pays the price. Now, 5 years later, the man once tied to her name is believed to be somewhere beyond U.S. soil, gone without a trace, while her family waits for justice that never came. The case has grown cold, the silence louder, and the outrage quieter. Because when a black woman dies in America, sometimes the investigation dies with her. And somewhere out there, a man is still running, not just from the law, but from the ghost of the woman who refused to belong to him. Welcome to the American Crime Femicide channel. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for future uploads. Gretna, a place where secrets are buried deeper than the bayou. Ronnika tried to build a beautiful life. She was smart, independent, humble, and deeply loved. She had a plan, a purpose, and a child who looked up at her like she was the entire universe. But somewhere between the hair appointments and the hustling, between the degrees and the dreams, she crossed paths with a man who would turn her world into a slow-motion tragedy, one the state of Louisiana still hasn't answered for. Richburg wasn't some tragic statistic waiting to happen. She was a lifelong resident of Jefferson Parish, a graduate of East Jefferson High School, and a woman who worked her way up from braiding hair in her living room to becoming the CEO of her own business, Nola Braid Head. Before that, she worked with Volunteers of America as a direct support specialist, helping people with mental and physical disabilities, a job that takes patience, compassion, and strength. She also earned an associate degree in medical billing and coding from Herzing University because she was never one to rely on luck. Ronnika built her life with her hands, every braid, every plan, every step. Her clients adored her. Her friends admired her, and her family couldn't brag about her enough. But at the heart of her story was her daughter, her twin. The two were inseparable, the kind of mother-daughter duo that melted hearts on sight. For a while, it was just the two of them. Until one day, she met a man who seemed to have it all together. A man who called himself a provider, a protector, but who turned out to be the predator in disguise. His name was Lloyd, and for a brief, deceptive moment, he seemed like everything she needed. He came in like a savior, short, chubby, generous, and ready to play the role of hero. He gave her money, attention, affection, and the illusion of safety. He smiled the smile of a man who knew how to perform love. And like many women who've been strong for too long, Richburg finally let herself exhale. By the end of 2012, they were in a full-blown relationship. They partied together, took trips, posted selfies, the picture of black love that everyone rooted for online. He was her unofficial hubby. They were that couple people saw on social media and said, goals. By 2016, they were expecting a child, a little boy named Lloyd Jr. For a moment, it looked like the happy ending she'd earned. But beneath the photos and smiles, there were fractures forming, cracks that would split into something monstrous. According to Richburg's mom, Kimberly Lamar, the relationship was never stable. It was hot one day, ice cold the next. Lloyd's temper was volcanic, and his need to control her was endless. For 7 years, they broke up and made up like clockwork. But by the spring of 2020, Ronnika decided she was done. She wanted peace. She wanted her freedom back. Unfortunately, Lloyd wasn't the kind of man who let go. He was the kind who hunts when he feels abandoned. Once she ended things, the nightmare began. She moved in with her mother on Millie Drive for safety. But safety is a joke when your abuser has a key to your habits. Lloyd began stalking her, calling nonstop, following her, breaking her phone, damaging her car, shattering her windshield. He was determined to remind her that leaving him was not an option. She went to the police. She got a restraining order. She did every single thing the system tells women to do. And on August 19, 2020, a judge granted that restraining order, a fragile piece of paper against a man who believed he owned her. 6 days later, on August 25th, Lloyd showed up at her mother's house, not to drop off their son, but to end everything. He came ready for war. According to Richburg's mother, it started at the front door. Lloyd tried to force his way inside. Kimberly fought him, but he overpowered her. Kimberly's boyfriend, Daryl Stewart, rushed in to help, but before he could even react, Lloyd opened fire. As soon as he saw me, he started shooting me up, Daryl said. Lloyd stepped over Daryl's body like debris, heading straight for the bathroom where Ronnika was hiding. Her client, terrified, dashed into a nearby bedroom to save herself. Inside that bathroom, Richburg, a mother, daughter, sister, and friend, was cornered by the man who once swore to love her. He shot her dead as her little boy watched nearby. Then, like a demon feeding off pain, Lloyd went back and shot Daryl again as he lay wounded. Kimberly, desperate to stop him, jumped on his back. The gun went off wildly until the bullets ran out. Then he fled. By the time police arrived, Ronnika was gone, declared dead at the scene. The home was a war zone, blood on the walls, screams in the air, and a child crying for a mother he'd never see again. Later, the family discovered a tracking device hidden on her car, likely planted by Lloyd. Their son, named after his father, was left to ask questions no child should ever have to form. Why'd my daddy have to do that to my mama? The family wanted justice, but justice apparently had better things to do. Investigators from the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office said they believe Lloyd fled the country after the murder. He didn't just go missing, he escaped, crossed the border into Mexico, and possibly made it all the way to Central America. A Louisiana man turned international fugitive, all while Richburg's family sat in grief, holding a restraining order that didn't restrain a damn thing.
Today we're here talking about a very, very disturbing homicide that happened in the Avondale area, and I am just very thankful to have the Detective Sergeant Tommy Guy, talking with us today from JPSO on this terrible crime that still the suspect remains at large. So thank you so much, Detective Sergeant Guy. We appreciate you being here. Of course, we're talking about the Ronnika Richberg homicide, and this happened in August 25th of this year. But give us a little bit, background about the case and, what we can hopefully have the public help us with.
So on August 25th of this year at about 7:10 p.m., the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office Communications Center received an emergency call from 169 Millie Drive. The 911 caller reported a double shooting at the location. Members of our 3rd District Patrol Division responded to said location and ultimately located 2 shooting victims. Miss Richburg, as we already know, was found deceased on the scene, and also her father was shot at the location, and he survived his injuries. Unfortunately, he has some permanent disfigurement from his injuries. This case was it wasn't a difficult case as it pertains to our job. We very quickly were able to identify a suspect in this case. What was difficult for us was the circumstances that surrounded the case. This was a horrendous crime. We had, seasoned investigators who were on scene and absolutely had an emotional attachment to the family and their sufferings. Obviously, our victim, we use that term as a lot, but it's more than just a general phrase to us. Our victims, every homicide detectives that work these cases, they absolutely take a personal interest in what we do. And we always say we work for the families, and we do. And in this case, the family is the victim. So ultimately, we were able to establish that Miss Richburg's ex-boyfriend, the father of her child, shot her in the head and killed her, and also shot her father. We have made numerous attempts locally and also through the U.S. Marshal Service to try to locate Mr. Jones, and we've been unsuccessful.
For those who are watching this, he's 42 years old. He had a relationship as the boyfriend with Mrs. Richburg for a while. And what's really sad about this case is there was a restraining order against him from being close to the victim. And he pushed his way into this home, from what the mother said of the victim, and the 4-year-old was there. So all of this happened in front of this baby. So I know as detectives dealing with this, I mean, that's brutal for you guys to walk into that. Why don't you talk a little bit about that, having the child there and just...
Doing this long enough, the one thing I've found out about being a homicide detective is you have to be at your best when things are at their absolute worst. And if you can't do that, then you're going to have a very difficult time being a homicide detective. And for us, we have to be able to have the ability to just distance ourselves from the circumstances, kind of block it out, and just focus on the work. That becomes very difficult at times. It's unfortunately something we have to do, and it doesn't really hit us until you go home and you see your own children, and you have a moment to actually process exactly what happens. But when you can get past that and you can do your job, you get satisfaction at the thought and the knowledge that if you do your job correctly and you do it right, and you cross your T's, you dot your I's, and you get the conviction at the end of the day, that person can never hurt anybody else.
Well, first off, I want to say thank you to you and your team, and because you're right. I mean, this just was a horrible thing to consider that somebody was capable of doing this and going in with the direct intent of harming these individuals. And Miss Richburg was a beautiful young lady and had her own hair business. And her mom, literally risked her life to save her husband's life. So just everything around this as a community, we're all there for the family, and we're urging anyone who knows the possible location of this gentleman, Lloyd Jones, to please let us know. I don't know how much new information has been coming into you guys. There's a little bit of time that's passed, but sometimes that helps when the time has passed, that people feel a little bit more comfortable giving that tip that's going to help solve this.
Absolutely. Any information that we can get that can help us locate this individual would definitely be helping. Personally for us, every moment that individual spends on the street is another moment that he's not paying for what he did. So we also want to have him arrested so we can start the legal process and we can start moving forward. I know from my own personal experience with numerous cases, I tell families all the time, we can't bring your loved one back. We can try to give you some closure. Unfortunately, we can't give them that closure until we start the process.
So in this case, when this individual is apprehended, and he will be apprehended, he's going to be wanted for first-degree murder, attempted first-degree murder, home invasion, obstruction of justice, and certainly violation of a protective order and having a firearm. Serious charges. We thank you again for the work that you're doing on this to find justice, and we're going to show that flyer one more time and hope that anybody with that information give us a call. It's very important.
Kimberly said it best. I want him to go to jail. I want him to see what he's done. Death is too easy. Ronnika was laid to rest on September 5, 2020, in her hometown of Gretna. The funeral drew crowds, clients, friends, relatives, and community members who couldn't believe she was gone. But as the years passed, the outrage turned into exhaustion. 5 years later, no arrests, no new leads, and no justice. Lloyd remains on the run, spared from facing the death penalty he so richly earned. What makes this story unbearable isn't just the violence, it's the indifference. Kimberly says her daughter called 911 countless times in the months before the murder, begging for help. But each time, deputies shrugged it off because Lloyd hadn't physically harmed her yet. They told her to wait, as if murder was some kind of prerequisite for action. And when the murder finally happened, those same officers offered sympathy instead of accountability. Richburg did everything right. She reported him. She got a restraining order. She moved to safety. She followed the law that wasn't built to protect her. And still, it wasn't enough. Because when a man like Lloyd decides you're not allowed to leave, there isn't a law on earth strong enough to stop him. Not when the system treats women's lives like suggestions. Her story is more than a tragedy. It's a warning. A roadmap of what happens when justice moves slower than evil. Because while Lloyd's somewhere out there, maybe drinking on a beach, maybe hiding under a new name, Richburg's children are growing up without their mother. Her daughter missed prom, graduation, the simple joy of showing her mom her first apartment, or calling her to complain about life. Her son, forever haunted by what he saw, is left to grow up with a father-shaped wound that will never close. It's easy for society to say rest in peace. But how does peace come when your killer is still breathing? How do you rest when every night your mother wonders if the police even remember your name? There are wanted posters with Lloyd's face plastered across them now. He's still listed as armed and dangerous. But the truth is, the real danger is what his escape represents. How easily a black woman's murder can fall into silence when the cameras stop rolling. If you see him, if you know anything, speak. Because the worst thing you can do for a woman like Ronnika is forget her. Forgetting her means letting him win twice. She wasn't just a mother. She wasn't just a hairstylist. She was a woman who believed in love, in beauty, in second chances, until the wrong man decided she wasn't allowed to have any. So tonight, we say her name louder, because 5 years of silence is long enough. May Lloyd Elsalvador Jones be caught, and may his freedom rot before he ever sees the light of a courtroom. And may Renea Richberg rest in power.